Friends, today's story is about the Black Forest, which is one of my favorite horror series. The story begins with four friends who arrive in a remote and signal-free area in the north of Sweden for trekking. They are here to fulfill their friend's last wish. Actually, a few months ago, after a party, our hero Robert and his friend Lukem entered a shop. There was a sudden robbery there. Luck hid himself, but Robert confronted the robbers. As a result, the robbers brutally killed Robert. Robert died in front of Luke, and he could never overcome this guilt. Robert's dream was to see this place in the north of Sweden. To fulfill his friend's last wish, Luck took his other friends along and set out, but the journey was not easy. While returning, their friend Dom sprained his leg. It was going to take them at least 14 hours to return to the hotel, but Dom's condition was so bad that he couldn't walk that far. To solve the problem, they thought of taking a shortcut through the forest. This decision was going to be the biggest mistake of their lives. As soon as they entered the forest, their compass stopped working. Hutch knew about this, but he didn't tell anyone to avoid panic. Hutch thought that if they just kept walking straight, they would come out of the forest. But as they moved forward, the atmosphere became more and more terrifying. Walking on, they reached an area where a black bear's carcass was hanging from a tree. Its belly had been torn open, and blood was still dripping onto the ground. Seeing this, everyone's hair stood on end. They thought it might be the work of a hunter and quickly left the area. But things got worse when night fell and heavy rain started in the forest. To avoid the rain, they found a small hut in the middle of the forest. They thought of staying there for the night and moving on in the morning. When Phil went to the upper floor to check if anyone was there, he saw something strange. There was a headless straw effigy with deer antlers in its hands. Phil called everyone over. They all saw it and couldn't understand for whom it was made. Phil said it was part of black magic, but Luke interrupted him, saying there was no need to scare them. However, the atmosphere was so strange that no one dared to stay there longer. When they came downstairs, they discussed the effigy. Hutch said it might be part of a ritual of some religion in Northern Europe. As they were trying to sleep in the silence of the night, strange events began to occur. Luke felt as if a white light was shining on his eyes. When he went outside and looked, he felt he was back in the shop where Robert was killed. Luck couldn't understand whether he was dreaming or it was real. Then he saw deep claw marks on his chest. A loud scream was heard from inside the hut. Luke ran inside and saw that Hutch was so scared he had wet himself. Dom was still in a bad dream and Phil was missing from the room. When Luke went upstairs to find him, he saw Phil kneeling naked in front of the effigy. Luke brought him to his senses and they all decided to leave the hut. As soon as they stepped outside, they saw strange marks on the surrounding trees. This increased their fear even more. Due to prolonged walking, Dom's leg pain increased, but they had no choice now and their real terrifying journey was about to begin as they decided to venture further into the forest. Luke wanted to go up a high peak to see how big the forest was and how far they were. But as soon as he reached the peak, he saw something strange in front of him. Seeing this sight, he ran in fear and told his friends. But Dom took his words as a joke and said he was trying to scare everyone. Luck forced to, lifted his shirt and showed the deep claw marks on his chest. He said, "I think there's something following us." Now they had only one option, to get out of the forest as soon as possible. But this forest was much bigger and scarier than they thought. As night fell, they still hadn't managed to get out of the forest. For their safety, they decided to camp there and wait for morning. As Luke prepared to lie down in his tent, strange noises began coming from outside. At first, he thought it might be his friends, but when he peeked out of the tent, it was something else entirely. There were some mysterious figures standing in the dark. Suddenly, a white light flashed and Luke saw the same old scene. His friend Robert being murdered in the shop. This time, it seemed like the thugs were looking directly at him. Terrified, Luke immediately went back into the tent. Then a huge shadow appeared outside the tent. Suddenly, someone dragged his friend's tent away, and Luck snapped out of that terrifying nightmare. But in reality, he also heard his friend's screams. When Luck came out, he saw that Hutch was missing from his tent. The other two friends were trembling with fear. Then a loud roar was heard from inside the forest. They could also hear Hutch screaming from that same direction. Without wasting any time, everyone rushed out to look for Hutch. They searched all night, but still couldn't find Hutch or any way out of the forest. By morning, they were exhausted and decided it was better to first get out and then come back with help. They stuck to the direction they'd chosen in the beginning. As they walked, they came to a slope, and what they saw left them in shock. Hutch's body was hanging from a tree, just like they'd seen the black bear before. His stomach was slashed open, and everything inside was gone. Everyone was clearly terrified. Now they understood something was following them. Even though they were scared, they brought Hutch's body down and grabbed his compass and map. Since they didn't have any tools, they just covered the body with some tree branches. Suddenly, they noticed a shadow on a hill far away. It was the same dangerous creature that had been after them. After walking for half the day, they reached a tall peak. Luke looked out and saw the edge of the forest. He excitedly told his friends, but then he noticed the compass in his pocket. Now, it was finally pointing in the right direction. But there was something strange, a fire burning at the bottom of the hill. When Luke pointed this out, he noticed Avi was searching for something. Suddenly, a giant creature grabbed Phil and dragged him into the woods. Luke chased after him, but all he found there was a flashlight lying on the ground. Phil was gone. As Luke picked up the flashlight, he heard a voice behind him. Luke shined the light and saw Dom hiding behind a tree. Dom told him the creature had taken Phil. Now it was just Luke and Dom left. The two decided they needed to get out of there as quickly as possible. As they ran, they came across a path glowing with light and saw Phil's body hanging from a tree. All the while, that creature's roar kept getting closer. They knew they were running out of time. Running down the forest path, they spotted a small hut. They rushed inside and slammed the door behind them. It looked like they'd done the right thing to keep themselves safe from danger. But just as they started to relax, an old woman appeared in the room. Before they could figure out what was happening, a big shadow came in and knocked them out. When they woke up, they realized they were tied up with ropes. Actually, they thought they'd escaped, but they were wrong. They were now caught in another danger. Then, a few people entered the room. The old woman was with them. She walked up to Luke, saw the deep marks on his body, and smiled. Then she showed him similar marks on her own arm. After that, she walked over to Dom. She didn't see any marks on Dom, so she ordered him to be taken away. Dom was dragged outside. Luke tried to stop them, but nobody paid attention. Soon, Luke could hear Dom screaming from above. There was nothing Luke could do. Then a woman came over and told him, "We're getting ready for a sacrifice. It'll all be over soon," she said. She covered Luke's ears so he wouldn't have to listen to the screams. A little while later, they dragged Dom out. He was in bad shape. They tied him to a wooden post where piles of bones were already hanging. Dom realized he was going to end up just like the others. Luke did everything he could to get free from his ropes. He was using all his strength, but every time he only managed to get a little bit free. Finally, he found the courage to break his own fingers. Despite the pain, he somehow managed to break free from the ropes. Meanwhile, Dom was tied up and saw his wife walking towards him. He was sure he was safe now. But when she got closer and touched his face, Dom realized she wasn't his wife at all. It was a horrifying creature. The creature standing in front of him was terrifying. Dom screamed in fear. Dom's screams reached Luke, who was peeking outside through a crack. He saw the creature clearly for the first time. The creature dragged Dom to a tree and hung him up, just like the bones they'd seen earlier. And just like that, Dom's story was over. After that, a blonde girl came into Luke's room with some food. Luke quickly hid his hands. Just as she was about to leave, Luke asked, "What is that creature outside?" At first, she didn't answer. But then she spoke. She said, "It sees your pain and it's chosen you to end it." She closed the door and left. After she left, Luke realized he didn't have much time and needed to escape fast. As soon as he tried to go to the door, the old woman showed up. Luke quickly snuck upstairs and hid in a room. There, he heard some sounds coming from inside the room. Curious, he grabbed a torch and opened the door. He was shocked by what he saw inside. There were several people sitting inside, all of them crying. He gathered his courage and stepped further into the room. To his surprise, those people weren't dead. That's when he realized, for these people, being immortal meant they were no longer truly human or really alive. To take revenge for his friends, Luke picked up the torch and started setting them on fire. Meanwhile, that terrible creature realized that all of its followers were being finished off. The angry creature rushed towards that place. Terrified, the rest of the people knelt down on the ground and couldn't even muster the courage to look at Luke. Luke picked up a rifle from the warehouse and got ready for self-defense. Just as he was about to step out, he saw the creature standing at the door. Luke immediately tried to escape through the side door. While running with great difficulty, he saw from afar that the creature was holding a woman's corpse. Calming his anger, Luke seized the opportunity without focusing on the creature, picked up the rifle, and shot it. After the shot was fired, the creature saw Luke, and now Luke became its target. Luke tried to run with all his might, but a two-legged human cannot outrun a four-legged creature. Soon the creature caught him, and its loud roar was heard. The creature confused Luke. He saw a line of light following him. The strange creature had now come closer to him. Without thinking much, Luke started running backward. As soon as he reached a shop, the creature rammed into him from the other side. The axe fell from Luke's hand. Luke saw that the creature was standing right behind him. Whenever Luke tried to get up and move, the creature would grab him, slam him to the ground, and force him to submit. The creature started performing a ritual, but just then, Luke saw the axe lying on the ground. Luke picked up the axe, and as soon as the creature tried to subdue him, he launched a powerful attack on the creature with the axe. The creature started moaning in pain. Seizing the opportunity, Luke sprinted towards the forest. Soon, he crossed the forest. When he looked back, he realized that the creature probably couldn't come out of the forest. Luke looked angrily at the creature and shouted loudly, avenging his friend's death. In the end, Luke was the only one who survived and managed to get out of this terrifying forest. The creature had chosen him because it had seen everyone's dreams and discovered Luke's fears and weak intentions. But Luke overcame his weakness and defeated the creature. The movie ends here,